My name is Magda. My current job title it's improvement leader. I have a BSc in chemistry from Nottingham Trent University, and I have an MSc from Loughborough University in business analysis and management. My job title officially is improvement leader. I work for an outsourcing company, so for obvious reasons, I can't really mention who they are because we have like different clients that we deal with. So I've sort of been privileged to work in what I would classify as continuous improvement, in the sense that as an outsourcing company, they have like different clients that we work for. It's mostly in customer management, so anything related to customer service. So I'm a green belt, Lean Six Sigma, if anyone knows what that means. But what I would do is we would go into an operation and we would sort of try to understand what the operation is about, and then from there we would diagnose. So we work in like different stages. So we would diagnose if there's any problems, and then potentially come up with solutions, and then implement those changes and those solutions to sort of help the operation to then sustain those solutions that we've implemented. So that's what my day-to-day role is like. So I would do things from mapping out standard operating procedures, implement any process-related changes or people-related changes. So it could just be basic things like managing a team as well. Project is operation, so it's in a contact center, and they are expected to call customers that are trying to buy phones or need help in regards to anything phone related. The client has set like a target that they're expected to be on the phone for. So let's say they're expected to be on the phone for 250 seconds. Currently, the teams are on the phone for over 250 seconds, which means that they're not in line with the agreements that the clients have set, which for us as a company, it means that we're racking in more money because we're not hitting the target that the client sent. So what would be advised is that my team would go in and try and figure out what it is that's making the teams spend more than 250 seconds on the phone. So sometimes it could be that the process is just super long and there's really nothing you can do about it. And sometimes it could just be that there's knowledge gaps. So in that situation, what my team or myself I would do is try and identify what this knowledge gaps are, but then come up with solutions that would help bridge these knowledge gaps. So it could be like a refresher training, for example. So I would work with the learning teams to create a document that would help whoever I feel like it's suffering. So what we would also do is like what we'd call like quartile analysis. So we would figure out who the top performers are, what it is that these top performers are doing, and also who the bottom performers are and what it is that they're doing. So what we just try to do is to almost like fix a problem in a nutshell. So I think I'd probably say at my final year was when I sort of felt that, okay, I don't think chemistry is going to be the path that I'm going to take after uni. And I think it was mostly around final year. You spend a lot of time, well, for me anyway, I spent my final year project, spent a lot of time in the lab, doing lab work. And I think when towards that time, you start thinking of, you know, your future career, what you want to do once uni's done. And I think I had that moment where I was like, okay, to be very honest with you, I don't want to go into lab related work, but at the same time, I'm not sure what I really, really want to do. So I think what I did for me, I was able to take like a gap year. So I spent that gap year in Nigeria doing youth service. I did work in a non-science related field. And I think that was like the starting point for me to say, okay, yeah, I was quite right in not thinking that I wanted to work in science. And I said to myself, okay, now that I'm thinking of moving to something business related, what would be the best way to go about it? So all I started doing, I did a lot of research for masters related courses, and what I noticed that there were some universities that were very open to taking non-business experience or people that did not have a BSc in business, mostly targeted at science student actually. And I said to myself, okay, I look at myself and I feel like I'm very, very analytical. And I do love a bit of maths. What would be the best way to be able to put business and, science is very analytical, merge that together. So when I was looking through like all those like universities and trying to find the perfect course, and then I came across the course in Loughborough, which was business analysis and management. And management is something that I've always wanted to do anyway. So it was a case of that was like the perfect course for me. So going for masters, and it was an all brand new world for me, having to move from sciences, which I felt like I'd done all my life, to new languages and business that I had no idea from at all. I think that sort of helped me to sort of shape where I was seeing myself in future. And although that might have been the case for me, but I feel like sometimes in some instances you don't need to do a master's to be able to switch over to, I don't know, go into the business world or anything like that, because there's like so many like short courses as well that you can do. But I think for me, that was like the starting point to be able to get to where I currently am. I say straight after masters, actually prior to graduation for masters, I got my very first role with the company that I currently work for, and the role title was a claims handler. So basically that role just involved a lot of investigative work. So like I said, I'm pretty analytical, so it was just like perfect for me to start off with. As a claims handler, I was sort of expected to review, analyze, come to a decision, and then proceed after a decision has happened. So for the company that I was working for was a financial services, which meant that it could mean that the company, the customer gets money after my investigation, or doesn't get money. And this was in a very regulated area. So obviously I knew that I had to be very thorough with my investigation, but that was my very first rule. And I think that sort of set a stepping stone for me to be where I currently am, because like I said, I have to do a lot of analysis, a lot of investigation, a lot of write-ins where possible to try and justify my reasons behind my decisions. So I was in that role for about a year and a bit, and I did progress very, very quickly through that role. I put myself out probably more than I should. And I think it was because I knew that I needed this stepping stone to sort of get to where I currently am. I was volunteering where possible to be like an SME. I had to train some of my other colleagues back then, and it was a challenging role, but it did push me out of my comfort zone, and that's one thing that I learned. My second role was actually to be a solutions consultant. She said to me, although we wanted an experienced person, but just seeing how you've been able to push yourself through the different stages for over a year, it's quite amazing, and it's one of the reasons why I'm actually ready to take a chance on you. So when I got my second role, which was to be a solutions consultant, it was within the same company. Like I mentioned, I've been in the same company, and that role for me was like, this is where I want to be. This is it for me in terms of this is what I want to do. So that was the start of working in continuous improvement. And luckily for me, I was able to be funded by the company to do extra training in regards to continuous improvement. So mostly in continuous improvements, people use different methodologies. So I was able to get enrolled to do Lean Six Sigma training, which I passed and got accredited for. I mean, you can always pay to do these courses, but it's nice when you're in a company that can actually afford to help you through some of those trainings. And that was one of the things that I looked for when I was applying initially for my very first role. I wanted to work for a big company. It doesn't always have to be the case, but also apart from working for a big company, I was looking for a company that was open to career progression. And I think that was one of the things that I really, really liked about my company, in the sense that it is so massive that the opportunities are there if you look for them. I say that because there's a lot of people that I know that, you know, they're very quite comfortable sitting in one role, and that's absolutely okay. But for me, I knew that for me to get to where I needed to be, I needed to look at companies that, you know, had good career progressions, but also I'd be able to push myself through to where I feel like I should be in, well, it's been 5 years now, in 5 years' time. Although it's still in continuous improvement, but now I get to work in much bigger team than my previous team anyway. And now I'm more of a lead rather than an associate. So now I literally manage a project from start to finish by myself. And again, that's the next challenge that I set for myself. But yeah, I think the journey so far has been because I've been pushing myself, but also like do a lot of research, speak to friends that work in the same industry as I am, because there's always something new to learn. And I've never been shy when it comes to that. Like most of the times I'm always asking my friends to help me with different methodologies or things that I'm not comfortable with. There's so much that your company can teach you, to be honest. And the more knowledge that I feel like I've gained from other people, I've been able to apply that at work. And like, again, everyone's always surprised that, how do you know that? So I'd probably say, yeah, definitely me pushing myself outside work has definitely helped me a lot to be where I currently am. So my plan for probably say the next 2 or next 5 years is probably the next 2 years is probably understand so much about my current role and grow more. Because there are things that, you know, so far from working in the role, I have found difficult. And I feel like for me to be able to progress to the next stage in my career, I need to be able to be very, very comfortable with doing these things. And I think also because I've always wanted to be in management as well, ultimately, I would like to possibly manage a team. That would probably be the next stage for me, I would say. At the moment, I don't have anybody directly under me, but I do get to lead and work with other people. So that's still management, but ideally I would like to have people that I'm managing. But in the next 5 years, I probably would like to maybe try out being a consultant. So freelance, just doing my own thing and not working under a company. But again, I feel like things like that have to come from you having the experience of working with a company that you've grown so much at. But also, I would want to improve a lot of the skills that I've acquired now. I want to get more accreditation where possible as well. So I mentioned that I'm a green belt. I would ideally want to move to being a black belt in terms of the methodology that we use, which is Lean Six Sigma. But I think because I've been managing projects, even though I'm not a project manager, I'd like to also improve my skills in project management officially, and possibly probably get a lot of project management related accreditation. So things like Prince 2 where possible.